Hello everyone. Today we are going to start the syllabus of your class 8 with your first chapter, which is part of biology, that is living world and classification of microbes. You know very well about living organisms. We will study so much things in this chapter. So to recall the basic things that you have already studied in your previous chapters, we will ask some questions and you have to take some active participation in it. So here are some questions. I will give you some seconds to recall them, so because as they have already been studied by you, so let's see how much we remember. The first question is, what is the hierarchy for classification of living organisms? So why do we need to classify animals? Hierarchy means here methodology. What is the methodology or need for classification of living organisms? Why do we need to classify living organisms? Let's take a thought. So we classify animals or living organisms to study their characteristic and interrelationship between them, and to classify them so that we can relate them with each other, and we can study their characteristic properties, and so that we can use this information for the welfare of the humankind. Okay, so this is about the answer of first question. Next is, who invented the binomial system? Okay, as you might have guessed, it is Carl Linnaeus. Sir Carl Linnaeus was the first person who have given the binomial system. In this system, we name the organisms or living organisms giving them two words. By two words, as we have our name, for example, I have my name Yogesh Sachwani, there are two words in it. Similarly, organisms were given names like this, that one part of which consists of genus and another word was for species. Now what are these genus and species? So these are the two levels of hierarchy, which is the answer to our next question. That is, which levels of hierarchy are considered while writing the binomial nomenclature? So the two hierarchical levels are genus and species. So the bigger part is a genus, and inside the genus there are so many species. So living organisms can be classified into many genuses and then further classified into species according to the binomial nomenclature system, which is a previous kind of system which has been discarded now. There are now modern methods of classification of living organisms. So let's get started with our first topic, that is diversity and need of classification. Why do we need to classify? So to understand this, I will give you an example. For example, you go to your school library and you find that all the books of all the classes, of all the standards, of all the subjects have been mixed. All are arranged like bulks, like mountains of books is there, and you want your science textbook or maybe science digest of class 8. How will you find that? Will it be very difficult? Won't it be very difficult for you to find that book? Exactly, it will be very difficult. So now we need to find some way so that we can arrange these books or classify them properly. We need to arrange them in cupboards. For example, there will be a cupboard containing 10 standard books, then there will be a cupboard containing 9 standard books, and there will be one cupboard with 8 standard books, and again in that cupboard there will be shelves having different subject wise distribution. So there is need of classification for proper understanding. For example, I need to know about some living organism, particular living organism. Which organism is this? What is its property? How it is useful to mankind? I need to classify this animal properly, or I need to classify that organism properly. So this is a need of classification. As there is biodiversity, bio means life, diversity means variation. There is a lot of different kinds of living organism on earth. So there is so many different kinds, from an ant or from an fungus to up to human beings. There are millions or billions of variable living organisms there with different characteristic properties. So there is a much need for their classification to understand their properties or characteristics. So different scientists, biologists and ecologists try to classify them. So here let's peep into the history. So First time in the year 1735, Carl Linnaeus divided the living world in two kingdoms, that is Vegetabilia and Animalia. Vegetabilia consisting of plants and Animalia consisting of all the animals. This was a broader sense of classification. Then came in the year 1866 Haeckel. He considered three kingdoms: Protista, plants and animals. Again one more system was introduced, that is Protista, which included the smaller organisms than plants. We will discuss it in detail further topics. So in 1925 Chatton created two groups, that is prokaryotes and eukaryotes. This was a different basis of classification. We will study it. So this was a one thing. Another thing is in 1938 Copeland divided the kingdom living organism into four kingdoms, that is Monera, Protista, plants and animals. These four kingdoms were given by the Copeland in the year 1938. So this was about history of classification of living organisms. So on what basis do we classify the animals? Depending upon their characteristics, their occurrence, their geographical conditions. As you know that animals adapt and evolve, as we have evolved from monkeys, it is said, we are apes, they develop from apes. So depending upon the evolution processes, there are so many species created, and on that basis we are going to classify them. There are so many characteristics. So Robert Hartwig Whittaker, during the year 1920 and 1980, he lived, and he gave the concept of 5 kingdom groups, or 5 kingdom classification was given by Sir Robert Hartwig Whittaker. So on what basis he classified the living organisms? As you can see here, there are so many different properties or characteristics on what basis he divided the living organisms into 5 kingdoms. So what did he observe? Firstly, he observed the complexity of the cell structure. As you have studied, there are two types of cell: prokaryotic cell and eukaryotic cell. Prokaryotic, pro means primitive kind of cell. It is the ancient kind of cell, undeveloped cell which even does not have a nucleus. So you know about cell organelles: cell wall, cell nucleus, protoplasm, cytoplasm, ribosomes. You all know about the cell organelles. So the cell which does not have a well developed nucleus, nuclear membrane or a plasma membrane is called as prokaryotic cell. Another type based on the complexity of cell structure is eukaryotic cell. Eukaryotic cell is a cell which consists of well developed nucleus, nuclear membrane, cell wall, plasma membrane, and all the cell organelles are present in eukaryotic cell, as you can say that. So next is complexity of organisms. How much complex is the organism? Is it unicellular? Unicellular means uni means one, single, and cellular means cell. If the organism is only consisting of single cell, it is called as unicellular, and multicellular means it consists of a large number of cells. Many cells are there, a group of cells is there. As you know that cells combine to form tissues, tissues combine to form muscles, and muscles combine to form a fully grown body. Or we can say that muscles combine or tissues combine to form organs, and organs combine to form a fully grown body. So it might consist of many type of cells, so it is called as multicellular. Now mode of nutrition. Third will be mode of nutrition, that is it autotrophic or heterotrophic? Auto means by itself, by themselves, which produce food by themselves. It is not dependent on other organisms for their food. Such organisms are called as autotrophic organisms. For example, plants which are photosynthetic. Photosynthesis is a process of production of food from sunlight and water. Next is fungi. Fungi are saprophytic in nature. Saprophytic means which are dependent on dead organic matter, means which live on the dead bodies of other organisms, which obtain their nutrition from the dead bodies of other organisms which have been died. Such are called as saprophytic or saprotrophs. Next is animals, which are heterotrophic and ingestive, which are dependent upon other organisms for their food. It may be vegetative, or it may be vegetarian, or it may be non-vegetarian. Any kind of food he can eat, but it is dependent upon the other kind of organism. So this is called as heterotrophic. It is dependent on different types of organisms. Next is life cycle. How does that organism lives? How does that organism survives in the nature? Is it a producer means plants, which produces its plants, which produces its own food? Is it an animal, which is consumer? It cannot produce its own food but can eat the other plants or animals to obtain its food, so it is called as a consumer. Or is it a decomposers are those which decay the substances and convert it into gases, means complex cell system is converted into dead material, or it has been degraded. Such organisms which degrade the organic matter is called as decomposer. Example is fungus. Next is phylogenetic relationship. Now the phylogenetic relationship means relating to evolutionary development and diversification of a species or group of organism, or a particular feature of an organism, means how the organism have been evolved till now, how it has been evolved till now. Is it coming from the sea or from the mountainous region, or from which region it is coming? Either it was first, initially it was prokaryotic, then it developed, adapted and become a eukaryote, so prokaryotic, eukaryotic. So this is called as a phylogenetic relationship. Either it was a unicellular organism initially and he evolved to form a multicellular organism. So on this basis also we can classify them. So you have to make this chart on your in your textbook or in your notebook, so you can see that this is a different type of element classification, 5 kingdom classification. Here you can see that living organisms are basically divided into 2 types, that is prokaryotic and eukaryotic. And again, prokaryotes is of one type, that is unicellular, and eukaryotes are of 2 types, unicellular and multicellular. And it consists of, prokaryotes consist of one kingdom, first kingdom, that is our Monera. One thing you will observe here is we are evolving from Monera to Animalia, means which animal was for which organism was first Monera, it will some way in future develop into Animalia, means we are coming in, we are growing, we are developing from Monera to Animalia. So initially it was Monera, which was prokaryotic, and then second kingdom comes under the eukaryotic unicellular kingdom, that is Protista. And then third kingdom is fungus or fungi, which consists of cell. We will discuss about that in detail further. Just remember the names of the kingdoms. So number 4 is kingdom Plantae, and then Animalia. This is the 5 kingdom classification of Whitaker, and on what basis he has classified I have already explained you. So let's move to the next topic. Okay, now you need to know that there are, in this part of your syllabus, only 3 kingdoms have been discussed in detail. The remaining 2 kingdoms will be discussing in upcoming class, that is class 9. So 3 kingdoms we will study in this class. So let's get started with the 3 different types of kingdoms. So first here is the kingdom Monera, the minute microorganisms which are unicellular and cannot be seen even through eyes are called as, which are included in the kingdom Monera. So here is an activity. We will try to do this activity in your practical or in the science laboratory if we get a chance to do that. What we have to do is take a small drop of curd. Curd means dahi we call it in Hindi. Take a small drop of curd or buttermilk and take it on a slide, stain it, fix it, and observe it under the compound microscope. You will find that you will get this very small minute microorganisms to see, such like that. Here are some examples of some microorganisms or of kingdom Monera. We will find that somewhat this kind of organism will be seen in curd. It is called as lactobacillus. So it is included in the kingdom Monera. Kingdom Monera includes some bacteria, all type of bacteria, and blue-green algae. Blue-green algae is a type of organism, a microorganism. So what are the characteristics of this kingdom Monera? First is all organisms are unicellular, that is single cell. There will be no multicellular system. They may be autotrophic or heterotrophic. Now here both the cases are possible. Some organisms may be autotrophic, that they produce their own food, and some might be heterotrophic, that they depend upon the different organisms for their food. Next is these are prokaryotic cells without the distinct nucleus or cell organelles. So it has as we have said that Monera includes in the prokaryotes, so it does not have a well developed nucleus. Next kingdom is kingdom Protista. Again there is an activity. Pond water, we have to take pond water on a slide and stain it and observe it under compound microscope. You will find that there are some microorganisms present in the pond water or the puddles that we see in the rainy season. You can take a sample of that also. You will find the organisms somewhat like this paramecium and amoeba. Such kind of organisms will be observed in that dirty water. So what are these organisms? These are the Protista. They are included in the kingdom 2, that is Protista. What are the characteristics of these? So Protista are single cell organisms and they have well developed nucleus enclosed in a nuclear membrane. As we have seen that flow chart previously, they are included in eukaryotes, there is a well developed nucleus, and unicellular, that is they have a single cell. They have pseudopodia or hair like cilia. As you can observe in this hair, this is called as pseudopodia or small hairs on their body. You will be not able to see in this photo because it is not clear, but they have small hair like structures on their cells which they use for locomotion, that is they move from one place to other in a water puddle with the help of this pseudopodia or philia. So next is autotrophs. They are autotrophs, or examples are autotrophs, that is they produce their own food, and examples are Euglena, volvox, contain chloroplast. They contain chloroplast. Chloroplast is a type of cell organelle which you might have studied in the plant cell structure in your previous standards. It is used for the production of food, that is the photosynthesis occurs in this cell organelle. They might be heterotrophs. Examples are amoeba and paramecium. So this was about Protista. Next is kingdom fungi. You have to take the sample of bread or a dried bhakri or moist bhakri kept for 2 to 3 days. A greenish colored layer is grown on it. As you observed, if you keep a bread in a refrigerator for about 3 or 4 days, you will find that a greenish color layer is grown on this. Some microorganisms are growing on there. That's are fungus or fungi. So this is the structure. If you observe them under microscope, this is the exact structure of fungus. It consists of various parts. We will discuss it in the practical or maybe in the further classes. So various parts are there. So what are the characteristics of fungi? Study in the next slide. Okay, now here are the characteristics of fungi. So these are non-green eukaryotic heterotrophic organism. Non-green, it does not contain chlorophyll. Plants have color due to the presence of chlorophyll in their cells. So these organisms of kingdom fungi do not have chlorophyll. That's why they do not have a color green. So they are colorless or non-green. Eukaryotic consist of a well-developed nucleus. Heterotrophic, they are dependent on for their food on other organisms. That's why they are called as heterotrophic. Most of them are saprophytes. Saprotrophs means they are dependent on their other. They live on dead and decayed matter. Dead and decaying matter. Their cell wall is made up of a tough and complex sugar called chitin. Chitin is a sugar, as there are various sugars. Glucose is an example of sugar, fructose is an example of sugar, starch is an example of sugar. So there is another kind of sugar called chitin. So chitin is a chemical substance which is present in the cell wall of the organisms of fungus. Some fungi are thread-like and many nuclei are present in the cytoplasm. So their body structure variation is very different. There are so many varieties of body structures present in the case of fungus. They might be thread-like. There might be many nuclei present in some fungus. So there is a variation of body concentration, body formation or body structure. So organisms examples are there: Baker's yeast, Aspergillus niger or Aspergillus fungus of corn, which grow on corn. Penicillium, mushrooms that we eat is a kind of fungus. So these are the different types of examples of class or kingdom fungi. So these are the three kingdoms you are in your syllabus. The next topic, that is classification of microbes, we will study in the next video. So that's it for today. Thank you so much.